Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that could save you from making a huge mistake. A mistake that could leave you longing for lukewarm tap water and the comforting embrace of a familiar electrical socket. We're talking about countries people regret moving to and why they could, to put it lightly, ruin your future. Now, before we get started, a disclaimer: the world is a diverse place, and for every negative experience, there's likely a positive one. This isn't about bashing countries, it's about highlighting the potential pitfalls of relocating without doing your homework. Think of it as a cautionary tale, like those old-timey PSAs about the dangers of quicksand, except instead of sinking into sand, you might be sinking your life savings into a one-way ticket to, well, you'll see. Let's get started. First up, we have Venezuela, a country that was once considered the crown jewel of South America. Beautiful beaches, lush rainforests, and a vibrant culture, it had it all. But over the past few decades, Venezuela has experienced a dramatic fall from grace, and I'm not talking about a graceful tumble down a grassy knoll. This is more like tripping over a shoelace and face-planting directly into a mud pit. The culprit? An economic crisis of truly epic proportions. We're talking hyperinflation so bad that at one point a cup of coffee could cost you a wheelbarrow full of cash. And good luck finding that coffee, or any basic necessities for that matter, because shortages are rampant. Imagine walking into your local supermarket and finding nothing but tumbleweeds and the faint scent of despair. That's everyday life in Venezuela. Unemployment is sky high, healthcare is on life support, and crime rates are, well, let's just say you'd be forgiven for mistaking Caracas for a Quentin Tarantino film set. Now, I know what you're thinking, John, this sounds awful, but surely there are still people living there, right? And yes, of course there are. There are millions of Venezuelans who call this struggling nation home, many of whom have nowhere else to go. But for those considering a move to Venezuela, it's crucial to understand the reality on the ground. This isn't a place where you can simply find yourself or live off the land. This is a country in crisis, and unless you're bringing a suitcase full of essential supplies and a PhD in economic survivalism, you might want to reconsider your travel plans. Look, I'm not saying Venezuela doesn't have potential. It's a country with a rich history, a resilient people, and enough natural beauty to make a postcard weep. But right now, it's a country in turmoil, and moving there without a fully formed escape plan and a healthy dose of skepticism is a bit like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. Sure, you might enjoy the view for a few fleeting seconds, but the landing is going to be rough. Next, we're hopping over to Europe, to a country often touted as a utopia, Switzerland. Land of pristine mountains, delicious chocolate, and more watches than a James Bond villain's secret lair. Sounds idyllic, right? And in many ways it is. But before you pack your bags and start practicing your yodeling, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the very expensive, very well-fed cow in the meticulously manicured Swiss meadow: the cost of living. Switzerland is notoriously expensive. We're talking rent that could make your eyes water faster than a fondue mishap, groceries that cost more than a semester at a Swiss finishing school, and don't even get me started on the price of a simple cup of coffee. You could be forgiven for thinking they brew the stuff with melted gold bars. Now, some might argue that the high salaries in Switzerland offset the high cost of living. And yes, Swiss wages are generally higher than in many other countries, but here's the catch. Those high salaries often come with a hefty side of pressure and long working hours. The Swiss are known for their work ethic, which is a polite way of saying they take their jobs very, very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that work-life balance can sometimes feel like a mythical creature whispered about in hushed tones but rarely seen in the wild. Add to that the language barrier. Switzerland has 4 official languages, and none of them are particularly forgiving to newcomers. A culture that can feel somewhat reserved and formal, and a distinct lack of affordable housing, and you've got yourself a recipe for expat disillusionment. Look, if you're a high-powered executive with a 7-figure salary and a penchant for precision timepieces, Switzerland might just be your oyster. But for the average person looking for a more affordable, laid-back lifestyle, it might be wise to set your sights on pastures less expensive. Our next destination takes us to Syria, a country that needs no introduction, but sadly, for all the wrong reasons. Once home to a rich tapestry of cultures, ancient history, and breathtaking landscapes, Syria has been ravaged by a brutal civil war that has left its people and its infrastructure in ruins. To even consider moving to Syria right now would be, to put it mildly, ill-advised. The security situation is incredibly volatile, with active conflict zones, widespread destruction, and the constant threat of violence. It's a humanitarian crisis of unimaginable proportions, with millions displaced, countless lives lost, and a future shrouded in uncertainty. The Syrian people have endured unimaginable suffering, and the international community has a responsibility to provide aid and support to those affected by this devastating conflict. But moving to Syria as an outsider, particularly without a clear understanding of the risks involved and the necessary security precautions, is simply not a viable option. It's like walking into the middle of a hurricane and expecting a gentle breeze. The reality is far more dangerous and far more heartbreaking. Syria's story is a tragic reminder of the human cost of conflict and the fragility of peace. It's a stark illustration of how quickly a nation can be torn apart and how long and arduous the road to recovery can be. From the war-torn streets of Syria, we travel to Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation. Nigeria is a country of immense potential, blessed with abundant natural resources, a young and vibrant population, and a spirit of entrepreneurship that could rival Silicon Valley. But despite its many strengths, Nigeria also faces significant challenges, particularly in the areas of healthcare and education. The healthcare system is chronically underfunded and ill-equipped to deal with the needs of its vast population. Hospitals often lack basic supplies, qualified medical professionals are in short supply, and access to quality healthcare remains a luxury few can afford. The education system, too, is in dire need of reform. While primary education is technically free and compulsory, the reality is that many children, particularly in rural areas, lack access to even basic schooling. Classrooms are often overcrowded, resources are scarce, and teacher training is inadequate. This lack of access to quality healthcare and education has a ripple effect throughout Nigerian society, hindering economic growth, perpetuating inequality, and limiting opportunities for countless citizens. Now, I'm not saying Nigeria is all doom and gloom. It's a country of immense cultural richness, with a vibrant music scene, delicious cuisine, and a spirit of resilience that is truly inspiring. But for those considering a move to Nigeria, it's crucial to be aware of these challenges, and to go in with a realistic understanding of the situation on the ground. Moving to a new country is always an adjustment, but moving to a country like Nigeria, with its unique set of challenges, requires careful consideration, thorough research, and a healthy dose of adaptability. Our final stop takes us to Saudi Arabia, a country often shrouded in mystery and misconception. Home to the holiest sites in Islam, vast oil reserves, and a rapidly modernizing society, Saudi Arabia can seem like a land of contradictions. On the one hand, you have gleaming skyscrapers, luxury shopping malls, and a burgeoning tech scene. On the other hand, you have strict social codes, limitations on personal freedoms, and a legal system based on Sharia law. For expats, particularly those from more liberal backgrounds, adapting to Saudi culture can be a significant challenge. The strict gender segregation, the limitations on alcohol consumption, and the conservative dress code can feel restrictive and isolating. Moreover, the Saudi legal system can be particularly unforgiving, especially when it comes to matters deemed offensive to Islam or public decency. What might be considered a minor infraction in your home country could land you in serious trouble in Saudi Arabia. Now, I'm not saying Saudi Arabia is a no-go zone for expats. Many foreigners live and work successfully in the kingdom, enjoying the high salaries, the tax-free lifestyle, and the opportunity to experience a unique culture. But it's crucial to go in with your eyes wide open, fully aware of the cultural differences, the legal restrictions, and the potential challenges you may face. Moving to Saudi Arabia is not like moving to another Western country. It requires a significant adjustment in lifestyle, mindset, and expectations. So, there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour of countries people regret moving to. Now remember, this isn't about discouraging travel or exploration. It's about encouraging you to do your homework, to weigh the pros and cons, and to go into any move abroad with a healthy dose of realism. Moving to a new country can be an incredible adventure, an opportunity for growth, learning, and new experiences. But it can also be challenging, frustrating, and yes, even disappointing if your expectations don't match reality. So, before you book that one-way ticket, make sure you're prepared for the journey, both the good and the potentially regrettable. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more informative content. Let us know in the comments if you have any experiences or thoughts about these countries. See you in the next video.